This is the Tim and a Contrarian podcast. This is VP. We are a solutions-based podcast, diving into the world of contrarian investing and alternative finance. You can find us hosted on the No Nonsense Forex YouTube channel, nononsenseforex.com, and podcast players everywhere. Episode 265 is brought to us by Apex Omni. Alert, alert, alert. You guys know Apex Omni is one of the companies who sponsors this show. Apropos as well, during a privacy episode, they are the DeFi platform where you can trade in absolute privacy. On top of that, listen closely, they are giving a free funded trading account to 5 of my listeners. It is more or less a contest to where the top 5 will receive a 5,000 USDT funded trading account, which can scale from there. You can sign up for this simply by clicking the affiliate link, which is in the Apex Omni blog post, which is in your show notes. I will have full details of this contest on that blog post for you to read. This is a very unique opportunity, which just kind of got thrown at me this week, but I've never seen an opportunity like this anywhere else, so I wanted to share it with you. Click the link, get started, and I wish you all the best. It is the 10-Minute Contrarian podcast, and I have to preface things. Again, I hate doing that, but this will be one of those episodes where I lose a few of you. I will be getting political again. The good news on that is like does attract like, and the vast majority of you probably fall in line with my political beliefs to a degree. There are a handful of you who don't, and I say to you, you are every bit as valued as anybody else is, as far as I go, but fair warning on this one. And there are probably some big privacy advocates out there as well who I fully support, but you will probably like me a bit less after this episode as well. Just know that the goal for all of us is always the same, is to make as much money as we can because money gives you options and in the end more freedom than people who don't have a lot of money. Because it sucks, but that's just how the world works. So for whatever purpose you would want to use it for, making as much money as possible is the end game here. And as far as privacy goes, I believe that privacy is a human right. No matter what else I say in this episode, please don't lose sight of that. I myself am a fairly private person, about as much as I can be as far as a content creator would go. Up until now, at least, I haven't really shown my face too much, and that's mainly because I'm lazy. And I don't want to do the lighting and grooming work that it takes to look your best every single video I put out. Now, this is probably going to change a bit in the years to come. You're going to see me a bit more. But it was also kind of nice. I'm really kind of glad I played it that way. And I'm also glad I didn't really share a whole lot of personal information as well, because what I did not anticipate was, especially back during late 2018 towards maybe 2020, when my YouTube channel got really popular and really popular with a lot of the wrong people, I was very glad that I did not divulge a lot of personal information, like such as my exact location, my family life, my dating life. I've never thought those things were anybody else's business. But man, if you could have seen some of the emails I was getting during this time, if I didn't value other people's privacy, I would post them for you, because some of them were just insane. Like 13 paragraphs long. People telling me their life stories when all I'm doing here is like putting out Forex trading content, right? And also from people who were able to go out and find a lot of information on me, which I thought was extremely uncalled for, but I guess they thought they were impressing me. I don't know. And these people would always want to hang out. And I'm like, no. Yeah, like thankfully now it's much, much less than it was before. But I remember reading a blog from Tim Ferriss, and he said it really well. Said it's just numbers, man. Like for every 10,000 fans you have, you can pretty much guarantee at least 100 of them are going to be anywhere from like a little bit off to like way off. Like some type of mental problems or just like off their meds, whatever the case is. And you have to be really careful about things like this. So not only am I a privacy advocate, I had walked the walk in many ways, and looking back was really, really glad I did. And the reason why a lot of people choose privacy is to protect themselves from others who may want to do them harm. Now, these people come in different forms, and I would say the two main ones are, one, the group I just described, the just unhinged people, and then the other group is going to be people in power who are looking to control everybody. And oddly, there are people in this world who are very for this type of behavior, the total control crowd. I would say most people by nature are not. The question at that point just becomes how much or how far are they willing to go to fight it. As far as Western countries go, we all know the United States and their citizens are going to be more willing to fight than other Western countries, for example. And we all kind of caught a glimpse of what this possible totalitarian future would have looked like back during 2020 to 2024. And we voted ourselves out of that to where other countries did not. And now they're dealing with it. I wrote about this in my last Substack blog, which you can subscribe to, by the way, link down below in the show notes as well. But yeah, I have liberal friends who are like, oh, can you believe that people actually thought the government was trying to take over everything? I'm like, well, no, they were. We just didn't give them a chance to finish the job. And at the end of the day, it's the same group of people pulling these strings. Social media over time thankfully made this picture a lot clearer for us. Now, how do you protect yourself the best against groups like this? Well, there are two different schools of thought. And one of them is just to become as private as you possibly can. You know, they can't hit what they can't see, right? And there are plenty of options out there at your disposal. There are entire YouTube channels dedicated to this idea. And they're quite good, by the way. But there are apps out there that everybody knows, like the Proton family of apps, communication apps like Signal, Nostr, and then a whole host of apps that most of you have probably never heard of. On the crypto side, there is Bitcoin, which people think is private. It is absolutely not. It is not the opt-out people were hoping it was going to be, especially now. But you do have cryptocurrencies out there like Monero, like Zcash, which we will talk about more in the second part of this series. But then you also have entire blockchain protocols out there too, like Cardano's Midnight, Litecoin's MWeb, a few others I'm probably not thinking of, which are dedicated to privacy. Now, how long are they going to be around to protect people like you and I don't know. My guess is probably not that long for two reasons. One, really our main culprit, really the thing we're fighting against so much on the privacy side, is not even governments. It's the group of people out there who ruin absolutely everything all the time, and those people are criminals. We can't do shit these days. And the main reason for that is governments, whether it's local, federal, state, whatever, response to what criminals do. I would go so far as to say that most of the mechanisms in this world are set up to protect us from the bottom 2% of humanity. And it shouldn't be that way, but it is. And when I say shouldn't be that way, we have rules in place. Most countries do. It's just they don't get enforced. And all you have to do really is enforce them. But for some crazy reason, most, especially Western countries, don't do this. And it really makes you scratch your head. I always say if something just completely defies logic like this, there is some sinister force at the very heart of it all. And this gets proven correct time after time. A lot of things during the woke and ESG movements from 2017 on, I would say, made absolutely no sense to anybody, except for maybe the 10% of the world who was actually helping to push this agenda. And then looking back and knowing what we know now, it's like, oh, well, yeah, there was an end game here. They wanted society to act and behave a certain way because it, more than anything, would allow really bad people to usher in really, really bad things whenever they wanted to. You have to change the culture first. You have to pacify them and make them docile so you can usher in whatever totalitarian nonsense you want without hardly any pushback. And a lot of us suspected this. We just couldn't quite, connect all the dots the way we can now. So that's one of my theories, at least, as to why rules don't get enforced. There is a level of chaos that these people want. And what I think they still want, is to be able to usher in a social credit score of sorts. And with blockchain and AI technology, this is going to be easier and easier to do over time. And I feel like this allowed chaos that's going on is to get us not only prepared, but enthusiastic about something like this coming into play. I mean, it does sound appealing. Like, what if there was a way to identify the bottom 2% of humanity and just completely shut them out of rational, polite society? I would be for that. Like I said, you could just do that now, but rules aren't enforced. The only logical conclusion I can think of is that they're going to sit there and say, well, we can't enforce them unless we have something like this. I think China is a very interesting example of this. In China, you can leave your cell phone out on a park bench for days and nobody is going to steal it. Why? Because there's cameras everywhere and they're scared to death. In a way, that's good. I think criminals should be scared. When they're not scared is when you see chaos. But all the same, what's the price? What's the cost? You have a society now that's just so used to this, and I think that's kind of the goal, is just to be like, well, this is just how I've lived most of my life, and I don't know any different, and I fear any type of change, so let's just keep everything the way it is. And then you also have what's going on in Europe right now, which is, in a way, kind of the opposite of that, to where chaos is absolutely allowed, and any resistance to the chaos is what is punished. But either way, it's already pretty grim out there. And governments will always be able to use the actions of criminals as a scapegoat for clamping down on our privacy more and more and more. Again, all you would really have to do is enforce the actual rules and go after these people, but they don't do that. Why wouldn't they do that, VP? It seems so obvious. Well, I feel like the reason why they don't is also quite obvious. Because if you eliminate the criminals, then you won't have the scapegoat to put in all these crazy rules, which give all your citizens less and less freedom over time. Why kill the golden goose? So the question really is what to do about this. I will remind everybody we are a solutions-based podcast, not a problems-based podcast. I have to illustrate the problem first so we can talk about the solution, but this is not so I can have people in my comments section saying, oh my God, it's so bad. Can you believe they did this and the deep state and the Jews? And no, that's doomer shit. Doomers love pointing out problems all day and then talking about how terrible everything is and then not do one goddamn thing about it because they are mentally ill and they want attention. That's not us. And one of the solutions, in my opinion, unfortunately, is just to be able to accept a lot of the things that we just simply cannot change. That's Stoicism 101. I believe that's also in the Bible. Lord, give me the strength to accept the things I cannot change. I've always said a real solution is not to get a bunch of people together and go after these people. No, let other people do that. What we're trying to do mostly is more or less find ways to opt out or avoid as much of this as we can avoid. And as we talked about before, there are privacy options which can, and I'm going to put air quotes on this, protect you from the people who are trying to take these freedoms away. And I don't know how long you guys have been listeners of mine. If you've been with me for a couple years, you've probably heard me talk about this before. But the privacy people are going to have my ass for this. Understand, I'm on your side. It's just the solution part we disagree on. I don't think a lot of this stuff is really going to protect you the way you think it's going to protect you, especially if shit really goes down. First of all, if a government, especially a big Western government, wants you, they're going to get you. We learn this all the time. They've traced people's Bitcoin. Everybody thought they were fine because they were on Signal for some reason. And then as soon as somebody was on there, a criminal, by the way, who the government wanted, they were easily able to go in to Signal and find this person. It's just this privacy lifestyle to where, people are doing everything on Signal or Nostr and using a graphene phone. One, I don't think it's going to protect you the way you think it's going to protect you. Two, I've always said I think it puts you on a radar more than it takes you off of a radar. You're probably not a fugitive, but it's fugitive behavior. It's suspicious behavior in the eyes of governments. And if you're somebody who doesn't run around committing crimes and doing anything wrong, then why are you acting like somebody who is doing those things and doesn't want to be seen? Again, criminals ruin everything. They put us in danger, they steal our shit, and they give oppressive governments the green light to enact whatever they want to enact. And I think the best thing to do at the end of the day, even though it seems a bit contrarian, is to find the methodologies and roadmaps that they use and then don't use them. I know people in the privacy space. I hang out with crypto people. I correspond with a lot of you. I have a lot of friends in Paraguay, and a lot of people are there because Paraguay seems like a place to where you can be left alone and do all your crypto stuff in private for now. And so these people are going to really not like what I have to say, but if you just, most of you, you're good people. You pay your taxes even though you don't want to. Like 90% of what we use is probably a Google or a Microsoft product. We have a lot more of our life and our information online than we probably care to have. But, unfortunately, it beats the alternative. I don't want to spend my life running away from stuff like this, especially when those runaway options just don't seem to be the best solutions overall if you really think about it. And that lifestyle comes with a lot of restrictions. You're missing out on a lot of life's really great joys and innovations and progressions. If you're somebody who really wants to live that life and communicate on networks with very few people on them and drive a very old car because there's no computers in it, again, you're allowed to do that. I just don't think in the end it's going to achieve the things you want it to achieve. I always try to put myself in the position of the bad guy. So if I was this evil, oppressive government and I really wanted to control everybody and I finally had the ability to, I'd be coming after you guys first. Because you guys are not the low-hanging fruit. I can pick the low-hanging fruit off the tree anytime I want. I have to find a way to control the opposition first. And chances are my biggest threats are the ones hanging out on these privacy apps and privacy chains and privacy phones and all that. No, that's how I would play it. Step one for any totalitarian regime is to find a way to get rid of the threats first, whether that's immediate or whether that's by playing the long game. Now, these two options, just live like everybody else or opt out of the system, seem kind of grim there, VP. That's not two really great options in my opinion. Well, I agree, but as we often talk about on this show, the best solution, the best defense to anything, simply, is two things. One, make as much money as possible. Rich people always have it better than poor people. Poor people are always the ones to get hit by these things first. It is just how life is. We cannot change this. We can only simply adapt. And if I know that poor people have it way worse than rich people do, and those are my two main choices, then the solution becomes pretty easy then, doesn't it? It's not a push-button solution. It requires a lot of work, a lot of risk, a lot of sacrifice. But it just seems like option B is a lot better than option A, so it's worth doing, or it's worth attempting. And this is one of the things we're all trying to do here on this podcast. We all could just throw, every savable penny we make into an index fund and let it compound. That wouldn't be terrible, but the majority of human beings and the majority of us are going to need a little more of a boost than that. It's just not going to get us there. So we need a bit more asymmetry. And thankfully, there are intelligent ways to approach that market, and that's what we try to do best here. Then the other option is once you make that money, or just by simply taking whatever money you have and diversifying it. That's the only defense out there. There is no one answer like gold or Bitcoin or bonds. Those can all fail you at some point. Those can all go down at some point. And then you have some real tough psychological decisions to make in the moment. But to me, playing the long game and spreading yourself out as much as possible is really the ultimate defense, along with giving yourself as many options as humanly possible when it comes to your money and when it comes to your own sovereignty. Because most people will not have any options. And 2020 was a very interesting phenomenon. It really woke a lot of people up and said, hey, something like this can happen. And if we don't have the right people in place, it can all go sideways pretty quickly. And if we don't have options, then we are forced to do whatever these people tell us to do. And that's horrifying. So you need to set yourself up with as many options as you possibly can before you actually need them. I just tweeted this out the other day. Most people, yourselves included, unfortunately, are going to be reactive instead of proactive. And you're going to really wish you just sucked it up and bit the bullet and gave yourself these options ahead of time, back when they were easy to do. And if you haven't been with me a long time and you don't quite know what I mean by these options, I mean spreading your money out through different banks, foreign banks, blockchain, metals, and then spreading your own sovereignty out by residence permits, passports, or at least the ability to obtain a passport quickly. While these options, these easy options, still exist, those of you who have waited on places like Mexico, Panama, and Paraguay now have it a lot harder than you did before. I would argue that Mexico and Paraguay are still easy, but not as easy as they were back when I was first talking about them. But becoming somebody of reasonable means and having real options, should things ever go sideways again, and I will bet in our lifetimes they are going to. I mean, we're still in the fourth turning, and I don't even think we're at the halfway point. This is the real protection. Not running away to these fringe methods of privacy. Again, I wish this wasn't the case, but I'm afraid this is the case. Now, this is the protective defensive side. On the offensive side, like I said before, I just don't think the close your eyes and throw your money into an index fund route is really going to get us to where we need to get to. We're going to need more. And the great thing about a lot of these more defensive things we do is they also have very offensive aspects to them. And then there are pure offensive plays out there as well. And what's great about that is the higher the possible returns, the higher the risk, but we can also mitigate that risk a lot by doing a lot of the things we do here on the show, like playing the long game, like finding entire sectors which we think are inevitable, trying to find the best of breed in those sectors, and then allowing enough time for these things to become reality. The whole purpose of this podcast is to hopefully make you a man or woman of means and a man or woman who has options in preparation for a very uncertain future. Because we win either way, contrarians. Either things really do go sideways and we're ready for it, and we and our loved ones are far less affected by these things, or nothing happens and we all end up rich and diversified and happy anyway. I mean, simply having the peace of mind in itself is already a win. Because most people don't have that. Most people are trapped, helpless, broke. And if any of you out there feel like you're suffering from any of those things right now, just know it doesn't have to be that way. Now you can't simply invest your way out of a lot of these situations. You're going to have to find a way to make more money. But once you do, where you put that money means everything. And how you set yourself up as a person means everything. And that, to me, really is the best protection. If you feel different, feel free to go to YouTube. This podcast does go to YouTube. And if you feel like you have better solutions, let us know what they are. Remember, not problems. That's literally every other financial and macro and current events podcast, YouTube channel, whatever. There are literally tens of millions of those to where you can go complain about things and point fingers and do whatever you do. This is not one of those places. This is like the one place where you don't have to sit there and look at that shit all day. But tell us, are there some privacy options out there that make a lot more sense? Tell us what they are and tell us why. But I just want to have one episode where I kind of put this all out on the table, because I feel like even though ever since 2024, some of this fear went away for some people, especially in the United States, I don't think we've seen the last of this at all. I think there's a lot of countries and a lot of people out there that are going through it in real time. I think it sucks, and I wish there was an easy way out, but there's just not. But I do think there is an obvious way out, or an obvious way to protect yourself at least. Maybe not a complete opt-out, but you guys get the idea. And then as far as solutions go, part 2 of this privacy series is going to be talking about ways we can really, really profit off of privacy elements, which are going to be absolutely essential, like non-negotiable, for all of the great, wonderful technologies we have coming. They simply cannot exist without reasonable privacy measures in place. And if this seems strange to you, stay tuned for that episode. I'll explain more. But I wanted to reinforce the whole idea that we should always be prepping all the time. And I'm not talking about buying dehydrated food in a bucket. I'm talking about finding ways to make more money, invest wisely, and spread ourselves out the best we can, even if it seems crazy to the rest of the world because that's not what they do. Well, I think just sitting there and doing nothing and letting the world swallow you up for no good reason is crazy behavior. People like us, we're just early.